All right, welcome to the Max Effort Kitchen podcast. I'm your host, Matt. This is your other host, Cornell. How you doing tonight, buddy?
I'm good. How about yourself?
I'm not bad. It's been a pretty cool, really, I don't want to say relaxing because we've been going, but we did this thing yesterday where we if you go out, remember kind of how we came back from Bend?
Yeah.
Okay. That 84 right there, that major highway before we got to the airport. If you were to go the opposite way, you run into this section of that freeway that has 12 to 25 different waterfalls.
Oh,
and they're massive waterfalls, and some of them have hikes that you have to go to. Some of them you can hike all the way up to the top of them. And they're not really much, like usually anywhere between a mile and 2 miles, but they have an old highway that kind of mimics that freeway, and you jump on that old highway and it drops you into every one of the waterfalls. And it's just like a state park and stuff. And so we took the day and just hit about, I think we hit like 3 or 4 different waterfalls. It was cool.
Nice.
Yeah. Just
driving or actual hiking?
No, so you drive, and then there's there's every waterfall area or attraction area has a parking lot or a place to park. You get out, you got to go hike a trail or go up some stairs to actually view it. So it's not like right there. You kind of have to get out. But some of them were 200 feet away from the road. And then others were a third of a mile or, a half a mile down. And, when you got 2 kids with you listen, Jack's great. Maddie's a teenager. She's in the back being I don't ever want to do this again. Jack's I want to hit every waterfall out there. And I'm so it's a give and take a little bit. Then we just got some ice cream and went home. But yeah, dude, it's been a good weekend.
Nice. Yeah, that reminds me of a meme that I saw, and it showed some super pretty lake out in the middle of nowhere, and it was this hike or this lake took me 4 days to hike just to see this view, and then someone makes a comment yeah, I'm just pooping right now and I get to see it too.
I love that. Because in this era of Instagram and social media, the instant thought is, oh, let's take a video so I can post it online and everybody can see all the cool shit I'm doing. And hey, listen, I'm 100% guilty of that sometimes, but I did take pictures, but I made a conscious effort not to post them online. And maybe that's just the stupid part of me, but I'm you know what? Everybody does this and post these things online. So I'm I'm not going to be that guy.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm someone who I can be very content not seeing things in real life.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
I know so many people who they've traveled the world and they've done this and they've done that. And granted, my mom is from Europe. I've been to Europe a couple of times. I mean, it's been almost 30 years.
Okay.
27 years since I've been. But I'm also I don't really care.
Yeah.
And especially with the internet out there, I'm hey, it's kind of a cool idea, but it's also, I know it's a lot of work. It's a lot of effort. It's a lot of money. And I don't personally really care. I live in a place that people travel. They fly hours to get here.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's one of the perks of living here.
Yeah.
But I love my life, and I love what I do for fun and what I do for work. And I don't feel like I need to get away from that. So,
well, there's also the aspect of we're adults, and if we want to go see it, we can always go see it.
Yeah. I'll go pretty much anywhere I need to go if there's a reason. That's one of the reasons why I really like when I have friends who don't live around here you. Or I've been to a handful of weddings when I was on a specific weightlifting team where people just started getting married, and it was just a fun thing it gave a reason to go to some places.
Yeah.
And the other cool part with some of those is it was really random places.
You went to Colorado, deep Colorado, right?
I went to deep Colorado. That was pretty cool. And then I also went to like the middle of nowhere, Kentucky. And like that was really cool also. But it's like I'm not someone who I'm like, oh, I want to go to Hawaii. I want to go to Bali. I want to go to all these places. That's like I'd rather go see friends where they live instead of like just go be a tourist somewhere and realistically not know what I'm doing and only get what is the tourist attraction or like what they feed the tourists kind of thing.
Yeah. And that's a major thing. Like, I've always, and I've told Alana this, like we go to Italy. I don't want to go to, going to the major museums. Yeah. Maybe that's a day thing, one day, but like, I want to go out to like the country. I want to go to the little villages. I want to experience their culture, not experience what a tourist experience, because I've done that before where when I went to Australia, and mind you, I was like 17 when I went to Australia. So I didn't know my elbow from my asshole at that point, but I was going to play football. And so like I was there and it was straight. Like I remember coming back from that and being an asshole and saying, oh, it was just like America.
Yeah.
But like at the same point, like it was so touristy and it was like, we didn't really get to experience Australia. People are like, what was it like? I don't know. I was 17 and I was playing football and all I cared about was girls and the fact that I could drink at 18. So.
Yeah. No, we went out for my father-in-law's 70th birthday a couple years ago to Utah somewhere, Zion.
Oh, nice.
And my wife found this Airbnb literally like in the middle of nowhere. Like there was nothing within like 20 minutes around anything.
Yeah.
And it was a super cool place. But it was just one of those things where it wasn't like we drove through all of the tourist areas to go like on the hike around the park, but it wasn't one of those things where like you could see where everyone just had their little cabins and all that kind of stuff. And it really just was like, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. And even I even heard about Zion with like, because they have those like kind of cool hikes through the canyons, and you're like, right on the next person, and that I don't know. I'm not into that. I would rather experience nature where there's nobody.
Yeah. So on that trip, one of the exciting things is we got a flat tire in Las Vegas.
Oh, cool.
But so everyone knows, like, I feel like everybody has been to Vegas or at least knows what it's like being in Vegas. Yeah. But when you get a flat tire and you're not on the strip, all of a sudden Vegas is just like a normal place. Yeah. And you're like, oh, there's a Pep Boys right here. There's like, this is the side of Vegas that nobody really sees. And it's just kind of like a hotter version of where I live. Yeah. And I think that's what a lot of people don't understand is most of these places, the only thing that you see are the flashy, cool one or two things that they have. But the majority of the stuff is just going to be like where you are. Exactly.
There's still people who live there. There's still, different. There's actual culture that's designed for the area, and I'm with you on that. And that's kind of what I'm talking about with that aspect, which is like I want to experience the locals. Like I want to, but it's still, and then I have this reservation to it of like, I'm always going to be an American or a tourist in their eyes. You know what I mean? So whatever. Either way, the waterfalls were fun. It's a perk to living in this area is you get a lot of cool stuff like that. And it was just a good weekend. Cool. Yeah. So let's see. Food stuff. It's been a minute since I've done any really big like cooking adventures, and I say that because it's been a busy summer. It's a lot of going places, a lot of seeing friends, a lot of kids sports stuff, and so I haven't done anything. So I'm gonna really latch on to this bacon experience I had over the weekend, which I'm not going to tell anybody anything they don't know, but maybe one person that listens to this is going to say, "Oh, that's a cool trick." If you don't cook your bacon on a sheet pan in the oven at 375, you're missing out on an aspect of bacon. And that's kind of I don't think there's one way to cook bacon, but in my opinion, like that's really my favorite way to cook bacon. And I think there's other good ways to cook bacon, but I like the texture that comes out. Like the main thing I like about it is that it's kind of slow cooks it. So it renders the fat, and then the fat lifts above the bacon and it kind of cooks within that fat. And it almost gets like candy like. And I posted a little picture of it the other day of just like saying good morning with the bacon that I just pulled out of the oven. And it was just like, it was one of those moments that kind of like reminded me like, this is why I love cooking, because of stupid, simple stuff like this.
So how long at 375 on a sheet pan?
So I go 7 minutes and then I take it out and then I flip it and I go another 4 minutes.
Okay.
So roughly 12-ish minutes, 12 to 15, depending on your oven, I'm going to say.
You ever put like the brown sugar on it or maple or any of that fun stuff?
The brown sugar I have definitely done. I've never done no, I'm sorry. I've candied bacon with maple syrup, but I've never like done it just regular like that. But
okay.
The brown sugar is the move. I know you've done that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's a move, dude. I think that if you're gonna impress somebody, put some brown sugar on there, because I love that.
Nice. I found this bag in my freezer and it said best if frozen by like July 2020. But it's all just a whole bunch of bacon nubs and just it was like it's like a vacuum sealed pack. So I just took that out the other day and I've just been taking handfuls of that and throwing it because there's no rhyme or reason to the shape or size of any of it. And I just throw it in the air fryer and just let it cook until it's probably about 10 minutes. And then I just pull it all out and put a couple eggs on top of it and call it good.
Oh, hell
but
yeah.
Some of it's like 1/2 inch plus thick. So it's
wow.
like that's like steak bacon.
That is. This bacon was pretty thick. It was a buddy of mine. His mother-in-law butchers like 3 pigs a year, and it's getting to be that time. Well, I guess late August is when he gets it, but he's like cleaning out his freezer. He's like, I need you to come over and take some of this. I think I told you about that last time.
Yep.
This bacon was part of it, and it was really good. I will say, since we're on the topic of bacon really quick, the time I did candy the bacon with maple syrup, it was all about a pizza. And I encourage you to try this because you are a pizza enthusiast yourself. It's a garlic olive oil base. It's mozzarella. And then I'll take apples and I chop them up into like rough chalk chunks about this big.
Okay.
I'll coat them in a little bit of like cinnamon and nutmeg. And then I'll put a bunch of Italian sausage on there. And then I cook that off.
Nice.
I take bacon and I cover it in maple syrup and I put it in the oven and I let it cook for about 12 to 15 minutes again. And I pull it out and I let that whole sheet pan cool, and then I break it up like brittle. And so when you take that pizza out, you throw that bacon on top and it kind of like the brittle part melts onto the, dude, it is so good. We used to serve that every October at Pizzicato, and we've since got rid of it, but like it's still a go-to like around that time of year because October, apples, bacon, maple, like it all just makes sense.
Sure.
But you should definitely give it a shot and let me know what you think.
All right, yeah. I think I will.
Yeah. Well, so changing subjects a little bit. Scrolling through, I think it was about a week ago, I was scrolling through Instagram and it was actually when I was lifting, and I was, sometimes I like to scroll through and like watch some of my like favorite lifters just to kind of get my ass motivated to lift a little harder. It works sometimes doesn't. I came across an article that I was pretty interested about, and which was the idea or what happened to Wes Kitts. And he got, I guess popped. Is a 30-day ban by POP. I mean, it was popped by the International Testing Association, right?
Yeah.
Which, okay, explain to me, and you might know more about this than I do, but what's the difference between WADA, USADA, and the INT?
So I know that USADA is Just America.
Okay.
When I went to Masters Worlds, they had Husada, which was the Hungarian anti-doping. Their colors were turquoise.
Okay.
I don't know if every country that does it has different color uniforms, but
yeah.
So USADA is just America, and then WADA is supposed to be, I believe, like the World Anti-Doping, but I think that there's probably just different little
sectors or something.
Yeah, it's like CIA versus FBI versus whatever.
Okay, I see.
So I think it's probably the same thing. It's just.
Yeah, I think when I was reading the article, I was just like, wow, I didn't know there was multiple. And I, the Hungarian, I didn't know that they had, I guess it makes sense that each province or each state has their own testing pool. I guess that makes sense. Seems like it could be a good way to get through a testing process. But he got popped for, we'll use the street name, which is DMAA, correct?
Yep.
Okay. This is I've read that it was a natural stimulant, then I read it was a chemically made stimulant. It narrows the blood vessels, it increases athletic performance, it's weight loss, bodybuilders use it. I didn't really get much out of the article that I saw about this regarding him and his pop, except for that he got a 30-day ban and he's still allowed to lift in Paris.
Yeah. So from what I heard is he showed up to the meet. When he weighed in, he said, I'm not planning on competing. Like he was cool about that. I know some of the international people, they were like putting in stuff and then they would just like pull out last second. So he was very upfront that I am not competing. I am just weighing in and I'm here for testing if needed. But it was very clear that he was not competing. He claims he doesn't know where it came from. Honestly, I don't care.
Yeah, I know, right?
Especially if you're not competing. So, and if it's something that it's in something you took and you didn't know it, we could probably touch on that a little bit little later. But I don't think it was intentional. From what I read about the product, it's something that'll wake you up real quick.
Okay.
And it gets you going real fast. It's one of the main products in the original Jack 3D formula.
I did see that.
And it's funny because there's so many meme pages and so many people who are like, oh, I just wish I could still get that. And it's like, I'm not telling people to do this because it's not exactly safe, but if you just search it, like it's at GNC, it's at Vitamin Shop, it's like all those pre-workouts with the word like death or insane or like psycho, it's in there.
Right.
I'm not throwing anyone under the bus because they're not using this while competing, but there's like 4 or 5 of those jars at my gym with just stuff where it's like, don't take that before competition. And it's kind of just one of those, like, it's whatever. But it doesn't seem, from what I read about, it doesn't seem that, well, they didn't ban it because it was like too much of a stimulant, but because it was pretty dangerous stuff. Like, especially if you take the recommended dosage, I'm sure it's fine. But how many people do you know that just have that heaping scoop and they just dry scoop it and then drink?
Listen, I've been doing a heaping scoop into my cup and then dry scooping a little bit more after that. So
if you're taking more than the recommended dosage, that's where I think that a lot of the problems happened. And it said it can lead to heart attack, and what it does is it constricts the blood vessels. And from what makes sense in my brain is it's kind of like if you've got a garden hose and it's on and it's flowing how it's supposed to, then you stick your thumb in it. What you've created, you're making the hose a little bit smaller. So now that water is going to push a lot faster through that tube. And our bodies are not necessarily made for that, and they can withstand a lot, but you don't know when they're going to stop being able to withstand that. So it said that there was not that many reported deaths, but there were like 5 to 7 reported deaths. And over 85. This is just with the Jack 3D.
Wow.
Over 85 like hospitalizations of people. So,
jeez.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't personally mess around with it.
But it was that. What was he? I mean, was that's? It wasn't really clear if that's what he was taking. He wasn't taking the Jack 3D.
No, it just said that chemical was in his bloodstream.
Okay.
And it had to have been something that he didn't know it was in, because it only has a half-life of about 3.5 to 4 hours.
Yeah.
So, I think the testable period was 3.5 to 4 hours.
I see.
So it's out of your system real quick. I kind of scanned through some stuff, and I think that's what it said. But it's not in your system very long. But one of the things so I ran cards for a guy he was an international lifter at a meet, and people who know me probably know who it was, but I'm not going to just like throw him out there. But he popped for a similar stimulant in, I think, at the Arnold one year.
Yep.
And he ended up getting, I think, a 9 or 12-month ban. But also he wasn't just about to go to the Olympics and one of 2 men qualified to go and all that kind of stuff. So I'm sure that there was some handshake deals going on to make sure Wes's ban wasn't as bad as it could have been. Again, that's how this game works. Like,
I agree. I mean, listen, they did end the article with saying, he's been in the testing pool for what? I think it was like 10 plus years, over 35 clean tests. Like, this guy doesn't show any pattern of trying to evade drug tests by any means. It was funny because when I was researching it, one of the first articles that popped up was the MLB, the Major League Baseball. They popped somebody. It was from the Toronto Blue Jays, a pitcher. His name was Marcus something, but dude, they popped him and gave him a 50-game suspension. And it said in the article, it was like, we treat this just like steroids. And that kind of like triggered a question in my brain. And you know me, I have a lot of questions. So in this world of drug use within sports or performance athletic stuff, whatever, or performance enhancing, like, I know there's levels of like in competition versus out of competition, but do you like, what's your opinion on, do you think there should be levels of like what a drug actually does versus like what it doesn't do, and have that be the level of suspension, or maybe even like, have some leniency or whatever? Or should it just be all treated the same?
Oh, that is a pretty good one.
It's a tough one. Like, cause I'm like, in one sense, I'm like, let's treat it all the same. That's the only way it's gonna be equal. But at the same point, like, something like this versus something like Dianabol, like those are 2 different things.
Yeah. And they are going to give a different sanction time based on what it is.
That's true.
So obviously, if they were willing to do this for 30 days, it couldn't have been that big of a deal. And from everything that I kind of read about is it was much more of a health related thing than a performance boosting thing.
Yeah.
But that guy that I was running cards for, one of the things that he said is leading into a meet for 2 months, he doesn't take any powder or anything that didn't like the only caffeine he takes is from a can. So he's only drinking Monsters or Rock Stars or stuff that he knows he doesn't have to worry about, because when he did pop, it was just one of those things that it could have been something was made in the batch before the one that he bought that's not supposed to have it, and it's just residue. And especially if you are taking a pre-workout generally right before you go and lift, and then you get called by USADA directly after, like, it's going to be fresh in your system.
Yeah, totally.
And I think that most of these people are not going to be that dumb to take something that's just not allowed in competition.
Yeah.
Like right before competition.
Yeah. I mean, you're right. I think that it takes a very big lack of intelligence to just like go out there and do something that is banned, like right as you're about to lift. And I mean, it takes some big balls, I guess you could say. But it's an interesting thing, and I like the way. Let me rephrase this. I appreciate the way that they treated it, because Wes has a good standing with USAW, has always performed. To me, he feels like a good old boy of weightlifting.
Yeah.
And I don't know him personally, so I'm just 100% throwing an assumption out there about, based off of what I've heard, what I've seen online, and how I've seen him compete. Like he seems like that good old boy. He seems like the guy that you really want to be like.
Yeah.
If you were to go to the Olympics, you got the guy that you aspire to be like as you were growing up in the sport. So I appreciate the way that they treated it, because he's a good representation for the United States.
No, I agree with that 100%. I almost feel like this would be definitely pretty controversial, but I think there should be maybe a 3-strike rule, for drugs.
Yeah.
So you pop for something, it's like that's strike 1. And I don't know. Maybe that would be just a little too, stuff doesn't reset. So one of the things, with the whereabouts, I don't know if you know how whereabouts work, but I believe it's a 6-month period.
Okay.
Or it's either 6 months or when you get tested. You're allowed to miss 2 whereabouts. If you miss your 3rd one, then it counts as a pop. And there's so much stuff out there now that is very, and I'm not saying now, right now compared to 5 years ago, but I just mean in general, there's so much stuff out there that is in and out of your system very quickly.
Yeah.
And for you to pop or to avoid 3 times, unless you're just a total idiot, I've listened to podcasts where they've explained how dumb you have to be to pop on one of those.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I kind of feel like the drug thing, I get it, but I do believe that up at the international level, all of the podium people they're popping. I listened to a podcast the other day, and they said up until about 100 years ago, the biggest people in the world weighed about 220 pounds. That was the largest people that could grow were that big. And they said that now there's bodybuilders who are out there who are 6'8" and pushing 400 pounds with single digit body fat. Yeah. That stuff could not be done without drugs. Double body weight snatches by super weight competitors, or maybe not that big, but they were just explaining the feats of strength that are being done now that could not realistically be done naturally, whether it's powerlifting, weightlifting, CrossFitters, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And I agree with you 100% on that, because I don't, people can try to argue that with saying, oh, it's just evolution and it's how the humans evolve. And that's not true. Because you're right. They're the feat of which people are lifting weights over their head at this point, and the size of the people. And I mean, I would be interested to look at I don't know who the big bodybuilders are right now, the Mr. Olympias, but if the latest Mr. Olympia versus, Arnold Schwarzenegger, put them up against when Arnold won it versus now, and see what they look like. And then tell me that even Arnold said in his documentary, he's like, yeah, we were doing drugs, but I think he said meth, but I could be wrong on that.
I've heard of his regiment, and it wasn't it was more plates, more dates talked about it. And he said that generally when someone tells you about their regiment, they're lying about the dosage and they're lying about how long they've been doing it. So supposedly, Arnold was on two tablets of D-ball a day and a shot of test a week. And that that's all that they're claiming it is. And then nowadays that's a daily dose for a lot of those bodybuilders.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I've listened to the more plates, more dates guy, and it's pretty interesting stuff. I do get lost in his when he goes down the scientific stuff. I start getting lost, and and he's a bit of a fast talker. Although I do like to listen to my podcast on fast speed, so I just need to bring him down to normal speed. But there's some pretty interesting stuff on there. I think I was introduced to it when the Evil Genius got on there, and I started exploring that a little bit. I mean, listen, drug use is happening, and it's something that I think that I don't know. Maybe there's two sides of the game on what you believe, and you believe what you want to believe, or anybody should believe what they want to believe, or feel the way they want to feel about it. But it's also one of those things that I think the reality is it is being used. We know that, and let's just move on with life.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, I agree with that. And I think that the other part that a lot of people don't pay attention to is their performance enhancing. And even the word drug doesn't necessarily follow their performance enhancements.
Yes.
No matter how clean you think you are, you've done something. Exactly. I mean, caffeine in too much you could pop for.
Yeah.
If you look at creatine, it's performance enhancing. Protein, a protein shake that can help you recover faster. It's performance enhancing. Correct. There's just certain ones that they have said these are too good, so we're taking them away from the general pop.
Yeah. Now, I'll be a little transparent here. Like, I take these nitric oxide flow pills, mm-hmm. and those are. I don't know I don't think they're banned. I've never really looked it up. I take it for blood pressure, but I will say I take it when during my lifting session. I take 2 and that's it. It's like, you're right. You could pop open a Monster. You could go to your local sports performance center where there's, they're selling all kinds of different powders and pills and drinks and everything. They got everything at these places. GNC. I mean, I think it's pretty known that like 80% of what's on GNC shelf has some performance enhancing something in there.
Yeah.
That's probably bad for you. But so yeah, I would say that if you are an athlete and you've competed, it's pretty safe to say like I've taken something that has helped my performance. I think like you, and this is probably what you were just alluding to, which is the idea of calling them drugs are, I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think they are. I think they're performance enhancing supplements. Yeah. They're supplements. Yeah.
And like, don't get all hard on people when you're like, oh, that person popped for this and that person popped for that. And you don't know what's in their backstory. You don't know, like, sure, this is the easy cop out thing to say, but you don't know what their country's making them do.
Correct.
And some of the stuff where it's like, if some of these countries they're trying to show their little mark in the world by how good they can have their athletes compete. Because if it wasn't for a super good athlete, no one would heard of half these places that are these little tiny countries. So they want to stand out and they want to make it make themselves known. Like, if you're doing your best to make yourself known and you have these athletes, like, you tell them what to do and then they do it because you're their employer. And you're paying them for it. And at the end of the day, weightlifting isn't going to be, or whatever they're doing isn't going to be that long of a part of their life. And hopefully these guys are being taken care of after. So, yeah, I have a guy I worked with, actually 2, they were both from Bulgaria. And this was back when I worked at the private tennis club over here, long before I got into, went to culinary school and all that. But I was running the little deli out of this place. And I had I had one employee that went to Bulgaria, and the other guy was like the janitor, and they both competed in the Olympics. And I forget the name of the sport, but it's the one where you ski and you have the shotgun or the gun and you're like sharpshooting. Sure.
But one of the things that they would always tell me was like, you didn't have a choice. He's like, you were as you were growing up, you were put into these sports and you were told what to do. And when your practicing when you're training. It's like, here, take these before you train. They don't tell you what they are. And, he was like, yeah. And I remember because this kid was, when I was there, I was 23. And this kid was coming in. I hired him at 18 years old. Yeah, he was 18 right out of high school. And he was jacked. And I'm like, let's start working out, dude. Really good guy. Like, both of them, one was name was Slavi and then Nick, and like really awesome people, but they were really funny. And they would talk about it all the time about how like, you just didn't have a choice. Like not in a choice of like, here, do you want to take this? Or it was just like, the information wasn't there of what they were giving them. But later they find out.
Like, I have a bunch of friends in the military, and I'm not going to get too political on here, but like when the COVID vaccine came out,
yeah,
these people didn't have a choice,
right?
Like they didn't get to pick what they wanted, and they were basically told like, you are a property of the United States government.
Yeah,
like this is what you're taking, or you're being dishonorably discharged. And for a lot of these small countries where they don't have money and they're just trying to compete and win to put food on their plates,
exactly.
That's the same type of a thing. So,
yeah. I mean, the way that, it's so hard to compare an American athlete to someone of another country, because athletics are looked at in a completely different way. Yeah. And especially, I guess, especially in the world of Olympic sports. And because, you're bred to do that stuff. In America, we just get to do it, and it's like, it's a difference. There's a huge difference. Like you said, it put food on the table for them. For us, we're paying to do it.
Yeah. Like you watch like the Bulgarian movie, with the weight, I forgot what it's called.
School of something.
School of Champions.
School of Champions. There you go.
Those guys are not having fun. They are just literally there to put food on their tables.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I know that I've talked to a handful of people who've been around people from like Olympians from other countries, and they're like, why do you guys do this for fun? Like, you're not forced to do this. Why are you doing this? Yeah, this is not fun. This is
it's crazy to think like someone would look at you and be like, why do you're doing this in your garage?
Yeah.
You bought this stuff for your garage? Like, yeah, I guess I did.
But so we're these like Americans who are just then condemning all these people from other countries who are doing drugs and doing all this stuff, when we can sit on our high horse and be like, oh, well, I'm a clean lifter. I don't do anything. It's like, yeah, you're not going to the Olympics. You have a job. You have so much spare time and extra money that you can afford to do this. Like,
yeah.
So.
Yeah, dude, it's a very, you're right. There's no comparison. There's no way we can just sit there and judge other people for doing it. And I mean, and this was a very personal, my thought. So I'm not telling other people they have to think this way, but in my world, I just try not to judge people for stuff like that. And like, it's like, let them show their true colors. Right.
Yeah.
If somebody is a drug user or a drug user is getting popped and then getting popped and then getting popped and then doing it recklessly, yeah, I'll probably throw a judgment on them. But if somebody is out there like, and I'm speaking strictly to American people, but like if somebody's out there like using something and trying to get better and then being very specific about it, I don't know if I'm going to judge them. Like, and they get popped. I'm like, I've known one person to ever get popped, and I didn't know this person personally, but we had been on the same team. And like, I still see like their videos online and they're still lifting. Mm-hmm. They're in their 2-year ban, but like, they're still lifting and they're still doing the thing. And it's like, well, their life hasn't changed much. Yeah. So it's like, why are we judging people for the things that they're doing? Let's just worry about ourselves.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Seems like I guess the other part is if you don't compete, there's nothing wrong with it at all.
Yeah, there it is.
So I know a lot of people are giving Girth Brooks a hard time for a while. And they're like, all he is a internet lifter, and he just does this and he just does that, and he's not a real weightlifter because he doesn't compete. And I'm like, I don't care. This guy's freaking jacked. He's throwing around big weight. He's American, so we know that he doesn't have all the science behind him for the drugs he's taken. And he's got a regular job also.
Yeah, exactly. Let him do his thing. Like, who cares? It's and we don't have time to really dive into this conversation, but maybe it's something we can push to next. But like, it's like we've talked about it offline, which is the video that Dylan Cooper just put on YouTube.
Yeah.
Like, he's like, hey, I'm not competing anymore. I want to see what I can hit.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go do this.
He wants to hit those numbers that were just outside of his grasp when he was competing and clean. Yeah. So he's saying he's not clean now.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert, everybody.
Yeah. Go find it on YouTube. It's pretty, I find it to be refreshing.
Yeah.
Pretty refreshing to hear somebody of his level talk about it, and the way he articulates it is really great. I liked it.
Yeah.
So. Anyways, Cornell, I don't look at the analytics a ton of this podcast, but I recently I was a little behind and posted three episodes this weekend. And I started jaunting over there. Dude, we've increased our listeners by over 50%. So I just want to say thank you to everybody. We have a 5-star rating on Apple iTunes.
Nice.
It may be only like 10 people who voted, but hey, it's 5 stars.
Hey, there we go.
Yeah. So like, I just want to say thank you for everybody who listens, people who reach out, and it's really cool to be able to have this type of thing. To connect with you, Cornell, and it gives us like a segmented amount of time just to talk about the thing that we love, which is food and weightlifting. And I appreciate it for that, but I also appreciate that people actually like listening to us.
Yeah, no, I look forward to it every week. I get bummed when we miss one. Like, I know we're gonna miss the next week because I'll be gone.
Yep. But that's okay. Well, we're kind of doubled up this week.
Yeah,
and that's good. Yeah, man, it's been great, and I'm really excited to see that. And I'll reiterate what I've said many times: is this is not a push to make money, and I think that makes a whole lot of difference, because neither one of us are like, we don't care about that.
Yeah.
We just like talking on the mic. So
yeah.
Anyways, I think that's all I got. You got anything else?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Well, if anything, I'm sure I will talk to you, but live on air, I hope you have a great time in Tennessee, and have fun. I know you're going with the family, and travel safe, and give my love to Heather. And I don't know if you're going to see anybody else I know out there, but I do know you probably will see her. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm seeing her for sure. Staying at her place 2 days, and then. Funny, we're talking about Wes Kits. I was super stoked because he posted a 170 snatch and he said one more big Friday till I leave or something.
Yeah.
And my plan is we have an old teammate, Mason Palmer, who's at his gym.
Okay.
And I messaged him and I was like, hey, I don't know for sure if I can stop by, but I'm going to be in town next. This was like, I said the date, but it's next Friday around lunchtime. I'd love to drop in. He's like, I'll be here.
Nice.
So maybe I won't ask anything about the drug stuff right before.
Cool, man. Well, I really hope you travel safe and you guys have a great time. Other than that, I think that's it. And thank you everybody for listening, and adios.
Bye.
It's going to do this again. It's
You've
frozen
moved twice.
Oh, really?
Just changed positions.
Oh, cool. Well, it's frozen right now, so I'm going to go ahead and just shut my computer down because that's the only way it'll stop it from streaming.
Okay.
So I'm sure I'll talk to you tomorrow, though, buddy. I hope you have have a good night.
All right, you too.
All right,
bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Yeah. Well.